I want us to begin looking into what we had covered last week as a recap. Then from there, I want us to be able to cover something that is very important today, because in photography and photojournalism, we all intend and our aspirations and objectives are basically to be able to tell stories. And that's why we'll be able to talk about composition today. And that's what I want us to be able to focus or give much of our attention to. So last week, when we were talking about camera operations and support equipment, we were basically looking into the camera as a tool, a key tool majorly that we use to be able to do our work. And as we use this particular tool to be able to tell our stories, we wanted to be able to understand the various types that we actually have. And that's what took us to be able to look into the various types of cameras that we have. We talked about the, the SLR, the DSLR, the point to shoot kind of cameras, and the like. And when you look down to these particular cameras, then we did talk about some basic things that we need to be able to understand about the kind of cameras that we are looking into. There's something that I would want to bring to your attention. It might happen that I actually forgot to tell you about it, but whenever you take the opportunity that you'd want to go and buy a camera, I want to tell you that there are particular things that you need to be able to give so much attention to, and these particular areas are one. We talk about the memory. When you want to go and do shopping for a camera, the one particular thing that you need to be able to look into is what kind of memory can it be able to carry. There are particular cameras that will be able to carry like 2 GB. There are particular cameras that can be able to carry 8 GB. There are particular cameras that can take 16 GB. There are cameras that can actually take 32 GB. And there are those ones that can be able to take more than that. So when you go out to buy a camera, it's very paramount for you to be able to understand and do a lot of window shopping and get to understand which which particular camera are you buying in terms of its memory, that what kind of memory can it be able to carry. John Mutinda. John Mutinda. John Mutinda is saying anipati vizuri. Let me know from Mr. Waithaka. Sauti yangu inasikika?
Yeah, nasikika kabisa.
Probably John has to check on his machine, labda aongeze volume hiyo tuendelee. So what I was saying is that when you go shopping for a camera, one thing that you need to be able to look into is actually the memory. Number two, you need to be able to look into a camera that can allow you to operate manually and automatically. There are particular cameras that actually allow you to work automatically. They are automatic in nature, that they do not allow you to be able to they are not able to allow you to operate it manually. Their settings are actually automatic, and like we said, a camera that does not allow you to tell it what you want, what is going to happen is that particular camera is not a good camera for you as a photojournalist. So the best thing that you can be able to do basically is look for a camera that can allow you to operate manually and operate automatically. That's the best camera that you can be able to go for. Number three, we might not be able to know this. And some manufacturers are not ready to share this kind of information, but it is very key for you to be able to do enough research and get to realize what is the size of the sensor of that particular camera. The sensor is that particular part that actually captures the light that goes through the lens and the aperture and then be recorded. Now, that particular sensor is what actually determines the quality of the camera, the quality of the video and the photographs that you'll be able to take, and it will also determine even the price. Sometimes we have gone into these electronic shops, and you get to realize that there is a camera that has 2 megapixels and it's being sold 50,000, and there is another camera that is 8 megapixels, but it's actually sold 25 even to 30,000 Kenya shillings. And you ask yourself, why will a camera of 2 megapixels be sold at 50,000 higher than a camera that is of 8 megapixels that is going to be sold probably half the price of the one for 2 megapixels? The reason why this happens is it's actually based on the size of the sensor of that particular camera. Now, let me use this particular example or analogy so that you can get to understand the value of the sensor. In a room where you are residing, probably in that particular house, where you are living, there's that particular one room that is set aside for you. Now look into a scenario where you every evening and every morning, that's where you actually go and sleep. Look into a scenario where we are going to have an elephant, and that particular elephant is going to come in every evening and get out every morning. That particular room probably could last for a day. Ndovu hatapita hiyo mlango kuingia, na kama ni kitanda akilalia, then hicho kitanda kitafunjika na kitafunjika kiharibike kabisa. So what that means therefore is, if you have a camera that has a very small sensor, when light is going to be or when light is going to be going through that particular lens and aperture and be recorded there, that particular sensor is going to um, um, uh, it's going to be destroyed very very quickly. The reason is, a small sensor cannot be able to carry a lot of data, and that's why you get to realize that there are particular camera people will tell you that, yesterday I was working on a particular project, and coming back home, that particular the camera was not responding, so ilibidi tu niweke kwa freezer ama ilibidi niweke kwa fridge. The reason is, it carried a lot of data in terms of light, and light at the end of the day uh, gives out heat energy, and that heat energy is the reason why that particular sensor now malfunctions, and it's something that you need to be able to be very sensitive about. Number three, you need to be able to look into the battery. The camera's battery can be able to last for how long? Some people can can actually buy a camera that has a battery that can last for like 30 minutes or 1 hour. That particular battery cannot help you if you're going to do an outdoor job. The reason is, you charge it, then you go out. In the next 10 to 15, 20 minutes, it will actually be done. So the best thing that you can be able to do is have a camera that can be able to carry, or you can be able to change various types of batteries, so that it can allow you to be able to work if you're going to do something outdoor, in the outdoor. And this is very key, because um, many of the jobs that you'll be able to do, sometimes they might be out of the studio. So it's very key for you to be able to look into a camera that can accommodate a camera and another extra camera more especially these huge batteries. They have those particular batteries that if you charge once, they can be able to last for a whole day, or they can be able to last even for 7 hours. And I think if you have a camera that, I mean, a battery that can last you 7 hours, then you're better to go. You're good to go, because what is it that you'll be doing for the entire 7 hours unless you're shooting something uh, continuously for 7 hours? And that's something that is not really possible for you to be able to do. Some particular jobs, yes, might demand that you can be able to shoot continuously for 7 hours. But again, that will mean you would have carried another battery so that that can last you for 14 hours. 14 hours, I don't think that can be possible a project to run for 14 hours continuously. So it's something that you need to be able to look into. Another thing that you need to be able to look into when you're doing shopping for a camera is the eye lens. And some good cameras nowadays, they come with not really the eye lens, but the viewfinder. Sorry, the viewfinder. Uh, you need to be able to look into the viewfinder. There are those cameras that come with two. That is the viewfinder, and there's that LCD screen that you look into and see what you're shooting. Now, the reason why we tell people to have a camera that actually accommodates the two, the viewfinder and the LCD viewfinder, is because if you're doing shooting outdoors, the LCD viewfinder sometimes might not show you exactly what you are capturing. So the best that you can be able to go for is the eye viewfinder. You look through into that particular viewfinder, and you'll be able to see exactly what are you capturing and what are you leaving out. The LCD will be good if you're doing something indoors. It will be able to give you the right information and data of what you're shooting. But we need also to be able to understand that the LCD viewfinder consumes a lot of power. It consumes a lot of power. So if you do not have a battery that can be able to last you for a long time, the best that you can be able to do is to make use of the eye viewfinder, which actually happens to be the best. So the other thing that you need to be able to look into is megapixels. This is something that is fashionable nowadays. A camera that can be able to do 32 megapixels is much better than a camera that can be able to do a 2 or 8 or 4 or even 10 megapixels. The reason is, if you're going to do um, if you're going to take photos that are going to be used in designing billboards, a 2 megapixel photo cannot be enlarged uh, into a huge billboard that is going to be placed outside Uhuru Park, or probably along the Waitaka. I mean, that's going to be placed probably in a stadium, something like that. So you need to be able to have a camera that can be able to take videos. I mean, videos, yes, and photos of higher megapixels. Because when it comes to enlarging them, they will be much better. If you have a 2 megapixel camera and you want to enlarge that one, it's going to lose quality of the photo, and it's going to have a lot of pixelation. So if we talk about pixelation, then the picture is not looking nicely because it's blurred. That's the right term. It's it's actually blurred. It's not going to be good. So those are the key things that you need to be able to look into when you're doing shopping for a camera. We have said the memory card, the memory, what memory can need be able to accommodate. you need to be able to look into, can it be able to operate manually and automatically? That's something that you need to be able to look into. The other thing that is very key, and like I told you, manufacturers don't want to talk about it, but it's about it. It's actually your responsibility to go and look into it. That's the sensor. Then you need to be able to look into the battery. You need to be able to look into the viewfinder. You need also to be able to look into the megapixels that particular camera can be able to give you. A higher megapixel is much better than a lower megapixel, and you need to be able to differentiate between megapixels and the sensor. The sensor is that particular component of the camera that captures or records information as per how you direct it, and the megapixel is the number of pixels, the number of dots that one particular photo can be able to accommodate. A 2 megapixel means that's a smaller, uh, it gives you lower information as compared to a 16 megapixel camera. A 16 megapixel camera ukipigwa picha vizuri utaona the spots on your face. A 2 megapixel inajaribu kuficha because it cannot be able to see properly. When we talk about megapixels, ijaribu kuangalia macho yako. Ule mtu ambaye macho yake yameharibika haoni vizuri, na ule mtu macho yake ni sawa na yanaona vizuri sana, yule ambaye anaona vizuri sana ni yule ako na higher megapixels, na yule macho yake hayaoni vizuri ni yule ambaye ako na a lower number of megapixels. So those are key things that you need to be able to find a way to know when you'd want to do shopping for a camera. Now, once you have shopped for a camera and you have known how to operate that camera, umejua kuioperate manually, either automatically, and you know the support equipment that you can be able to make use of. For example, last week we talked about the Jeep, we talked about the Steadicam, we talked about the tripod stand, we talked about the monopod stand, we talked about the dolly. You have known how to make use of those particular support equipment. The next thing that you'd want to focus your attention is on focus. I mean, not really focus, something that you'd want to focus on is actually composition. Now, when we talk about composition, we are basically talking about what is the camera seeing? Or in extension, when you have taken that particular photo or video, what will the audience see in that particular photo or in that particular video? That's basically what we define composition to be. So in um, in coming up with a very good composition of the photos and the videos that we take, there are particular rules and principles that we need to be able to observe, and that's what I want us to be able to have a discussion on. So today, on discussing those ones, I want us to be able to um, uh, just a minute. I want us to be able to look into those. Just a minute. Kama mtu ako na swali anaweza uliza as I try to get something here so that you can be able to have a look at it. Kuna mtu akona swali? Anton Macharia, Dipora, Elvis, Femi, John Vincent na Waithaka. Mko na swali? Anthony ako sawa, anasema ana swali. Elvis naye anasema ako sawa. Femi naye ako sawa, isipokuwa shida yake ni hali ya mtandao. We hope as we move along, she won't have a problem. We'll be able to carry on nicely. Dipora naye anasema mambo yako shwari. John Mtinda, nafikiria sasa sauti yangu inamfikia, naye anasema ako shwari. Vincent anasema ako ndio ameingia tu hivi karibuni. Waithaka naye Wanjiku anasema ako sawa. Now, can you be able to see my screen? What I'm drawing? Are we able to see that? Okay, what I've drawn here is actually a rectangle, and I want to use this one so that I can be able to demonstrate what we what we want to discuss on today's class. That's on composition. Now, in particular, photo that you take normally comes in this particular way. Either it will be a rectangle, it's going to be a square, it's going to be something like that, something like what we are having on the screen here. So the moment we are going to have this one here, now when we talk about composition, there are particular rules, like I told you, that we need to be able to follow. And on these particular rules that we are going to follow, for us to be able to have the right kind of photo, the rule number one is actually what we call the rule of thirds. Now, the rule of thirds is a scenario where you have this particular photo here, or what you're seeing through the camera in this particular rectangle, then you need now to be able to divide it into three portions, like that, and like that, Once you draw it like that, it will have number 1, number 2, and number 3. Then again, you need to be able to have divide it downwards like that, and also divide it like that. So we are going to have 9 portions within this one rectangle. This is number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, and number 7, number 8, and number 9. So once we have these 9 portions like this, there's this particular area that we call the dead center. The dead center is this particular area where we are supposed to avoid placing any particular image or subject at all. This is the reason people have done research in relation to psychology, and they have looked into what is it that people look into when they would want to look into something. They basically look into this particular point here. This is the area that their attentions will go to. They do not look at that particular dead center. They do not look into this particular point here. They will not be interested on. They will not be interested on that. They will look into this particular line here, or they will also be interested on this particular area here. So these are the points where you need now to be able to focus and replace your what? Your subject on. So if you have an individual, one particular individual akiwa amesimama, utamweka somewhere here, asimame hapa, or umweke asimame somewhere here, because that's where the areas of interest will be. And sometimes it happens, wacha tuchukue ni mtu mmoja amesimama. Ikiwa ni mtu mmoja amesimama, utamweka kando na amekuangalia, na uache hii space ingine ikiwa imepaki wazi hivyo. So the best thing that you can be able to do is utamweka hapa katikati, ndio utamweka hapa katikati hivi, hapa katikati hivi. But again, you need now to be able to ensure that kichwa chake na kifua chake kiko this particular area that I'm actually coloring. This particular area here. Na the waist na ikwe this particular area here. So that tumbo ikiwa imewekwa hapa katikati, we are not interested kwa tumbo, na miguu ikuje hapa chini, na utosi wa mtu nao pia wa kichwa na uweke hapa juu. So that's how it will be, because when you look into, I want to give you this particular analogy. Wewe kama ni mwanaume ukitembea njiani umepatana na dadako, the first areas that you actually look into is you'll be able to look into her face, then you'll be able to look into her chest, then you go down and look into her waist. That's how human beings behave. And that's what has actually necessitated the research in photography. Na watu wamekuja kurealize if they can be able to position their subjects like that, then it's going to be something that is going to be very pleasing to the eye. So you need now to be able to know how can you be able to work on that. So that particular triangle, ukiwa umepiga picha, you need now to be able to understand how you can be able to place those particular subjects along that. The rule number 2 that we need to be able to know how we work with it is what we call the leading lines. Now, when we talk about the leading lines, ukiwa kwa barabara, sometimes kuna barabara ambazo zimetengenezwa vizuri sana, na ukiangalia hiyo barabara unaona imeanza somewhere. Let me draw this. Labda hii ni barabara, hii ni Thika Super Highway, inaelekea hapo hivyo, inaelekea hapo hivyo. 3 lines going to Thika and 3 lines going to town. So when you look into this, what you'll be able to realize is these particular lines, ukiwa unapiga picha hautasimama hapa katikati upige picha ikielekea upande huu hivi, but utasimama somewhere here so that we can be able to see hii line zikianza hapa hivyo zikielekea somewhere there, na zikianza hapo hivyo zikielekea somewhere there. So there is one particular meeting point where they will be. For example, if I draw a flash and we can be able to see this properly. Let me hope I'll be able to draw it much better this time round. So ikiwa inaanza huu upande moja itakuwa inaanza hivyo, na huu upande mwingine itakuwa inaanza somewhere there. Yeah, this is much better now. So we will be able to have this one. So unaona kutoka upande huu ni mpana kuliko huu. Meaning when we look into this particular photo, tutakuwa tunaangalia kutoka hapa macho yanatupeleka this particular other side. Those are what we call the leading lines. That there's a way you will be able to design your subjects and the way you will compose your photo, that mtu akiangalia kuna mahali atakuwa anaelekezwa. For example, if we are going to have a person of interest somewhere here, hata tukiangalia hapa, finally our eyes shall be taken where? To this particular point A there. Why? Because these particular lines will always direct our eyes towards this particular point. So you need now to be able to know how do you place, how do you compose your photo so that those particular lines can be able to direct us to that particular important subject you have. For example, if you have a given individual who is addressing the crowd, kuna vile macho yao yatakuwa yanatusukuma tuangalie that is the audience, vile wameangalia, kuna vile macho yao yatakuwa yanatusukuma tuangalie yule mtu ambaye wanamwangalia. Those are the invisible leading lines ambazo zitakuwa zinaongozwa ama zinaletwa kwetu na vile au watu watakuwa wanaangalia. Ukiwa umeweka mtu hapa amesimama this particular point na amesimama hapo hivyo, na akiwa anaangalia huu upande, what you will be telling us is yale macho yake yatakuwa anaangalia huu upande kucha this particular direction. The eyes shall be giving us those leading lines towards a particular point. Now what we have on point A here, and you need now to be able to see how can you be able to do that. The other rule that we need to be able to focus on is actually what we call the headroom and the lead room. These two spaces are very key in terms of determining what are you going to do with this particular photo. For example, when you have a photo ikiwa in this particular size, one thing that you need to be able to look into is kufikia mwisho wa kichwa cha mtu na mwisho wa hii frame hapa mahali na kuwekea akasa, there needs to be some space. Hii hapa, so kichwa cha mtu kitakuwa somewhere here. So kichwa cha mtu kikiwa hapo, so kichwa cha mtu kikiwa hapa, this is what we call the headroom. The headroom isikue kidogo na headroom pia isikue kubwa, sana. Aka ka space, give it a good space, because ukikata mtu kichwa, then that particular photo will not be looking nicely. The best that you can be able to do is have a small space somewhere here, a space that can actually help us to look into this particular photo and appreciate it. Inaonekana vizuri. And this is what we call the what? The headroom. So this is the headroom. Forgive my writing. This is what you call what? The headroom. And once we have that particular headroom there, ikiwa inaonekana vizuri, I don't think you would appreciate a photo umepigwa na mtu amekukatia kwa macho, hiyo part ingine ya kichwa ipo, ama amekusukuma ndani, like this particular individual now anakusuffocate, anakusukuma ndani mpaka unaisha hapa juu. It's like now that particular photo is not composed in a nice way. That is what you call the headroom. Now, when you talk about the leading room or the look room, the leading room or the look room, this is what normally happens. This let's have this is the subject. Huyu binadamu. So huyu binadamu hapa anatembea, akiwa anatembea kuna hii space ambayo imepaki hapa mbele. It becomes much better if we can allow the space towards a person, towards a person's direction where this particular individual is walking to. Space plan ipaki. This particular space from here to this particular point here is what we call the look room or the leading room. So this particular space here is what we call the look room. So you need to be able to create that particular look room or leading room ikwe space ambayo ni nzuri, na hapa nyuma I'm not saying umfungie kabisa, but leave some space in between that particular end of the frame up to this particular point, ka space kakue kazuri hivi, but the space towards where this particular individual is walking to, hiyo space iachilie, at least ikuwe ni space we can be able to see where is this particular individual going to. That is another rule that you need to be able to observe at all times when you are taking your photos. Then another rule that we need to be able to observe is what we call the camera angles. Now, when you're taking photos, let me believe this is the photo. Now, when you're taking photos, how will your subject be looking? How is this particular subject going to be looking? Now, if you place your camera here, this is the camera, and this is the subject that we're going to have here. Labda huyu ni yule mtu ambaye unapiga picha. Ukimpiga picha ikielekea kuja juu hapo hivyo, then what's going to happen is we are going to have a low angle shot. A high angle shot. What will happen at the end of the day is this particular individual is going to look more powerful than when you place the camera somewhere here and take a photo of this particular individual from this particular direction. Camera ikiwa juu yake alafu na yeye mwenyewe akiwa hapa chini. Hapa unamfanya anakuwa powerful, hapa unamfanya anakuwa mtu ambaye ni ana nguvu. Now, for example, if you're going to shoot a president who is going to give an address, you'll always be told, and this happens by the people who are actually that's the presidential press service and the president's spokesperson and assistants. Wanakwambia you cannot have a camera positioned higher than the president. Why? Because ikiwa baadaye utaenda kuonyeshana hiyo picha kwa magazeti ama kwa TV, president ataonekana ni mtu adimu sana, si mtu adimu, sorry, ni mtu ambaye ni kiwango chake si kikubwa vile, ni mtu ambaye hana uwezo na hana mamlaka vile tunavyosema. So you need to be able to have the camera positioned just somewhere here where we can be able to see this particular individual from below, because we as the audience, when we shall be looking into that particular individual kutoka nyumbani, tutamwangalia na tutaona hivyo. So this is something that you need to be able to look into. If the camera is going to be somewhere here na huyu mtu tumpige picha ikiwa inaenda direct hivyo, then huyu ni mtu ako same level na sisi, ni mtu tuko pamoja na yeye. Tukimwangalia tunaona tunajiona, akituangalia we feel we are actually at the same level with this particular individual. So those are the other rule that you need to be able to observe at all times, and you need to be able to understand that really counts in terms of the photos that you will be taking. The other thing that I want you to look into, and probably it's actually the last one, is when we talk about the size. When you talk about the size, look into this particular photo here. And when you talk about this particular photo, we have a subject that is going to be this size. Probably this size. This is the size of the photo, and the subject is just going to be akarakitu hivi. And we are also going to have another photo where the subject is going to be something like this. Hii ambayo ni A, sorry. This is A. Then this is B. Then this is C. Now, when you look into photo A and photo B and photo C, photo A ni kamtu ambacho ni kamtu ambaye ana ile mamlaka. Is a very minute person. Unajua, you actually lower down the authority of that particular subject. When you have B probably could be somewhere between yule ambaye ana mamlaka na yule ambaye ako na mamlaka. And C is now, just your screen. It's a person that is really, really authoritative, really a person who has power. And that tells you then, when you're going to take photos so that you can be able to tell stories, which particular kind of size can you be able to use? Are you going to use a diminished subject image? Are you going to use a medium image, or are you going to use a huge image? depending on the kind of story that you'd want to tell. So you need now to be able to know those particular rules that you can be able to use when you are when you are telling those particular stories. So those are the rules that we need to be able to observe. For example, we have talked about the rule of thirds. We have talked about the leading lines. We have talked about the lead or look room and the headroom. We have also talked about the size of the subject that you are taking photos of. And last we also talked about camera angles. So those things you need to be able to have uh, so much. You need to be very aware of them whenever you are taking any particular photo. But again, but again, and like I'm saying, but again, this is all about creativity. There is no crime for you to break the rule of thirds. There's no crime for you to break the rule of lead or look room and the headroom, because it all depends on what kind of story do you want to tell. Sometimes we can go out and start experimenting. So it's something that you need to be able to understand. How can you be able to experiment? And when you experiment, how can it be able to help you? Now, before I allow you to ask a question, if you have one, John Mutinda is saying, can I have a comment on camera shots? Yes, camera shots are part and parcel of composition. And when we talk about camera shots, we normally let me use this so that you can be able to look into it. For example, this is a photo that you're going to this is a photo that you're going to talk about. So let me do this one. When you talk about the camera shots, now there are various types of camera shots that you can be able to have. And this is let me use this pencil so that we can be able to, and initials so that you can be able to know them. One, we have what we call the extreme close up. We have the close up. We have the medium shot. We have long shot, and we also have the extreme long shot. Sometimes these people, this particular shot, what wanaita establishing shot, ES or XLS. Now, when we talk about the extreme close up, this is a shot where this is the frame of what camera. This is the photo, and this particular photo, what is going to happen is, now we are going to have a subject. For example, instead of taking the photo of a subject, now a human being akiwa mzima, you only zoom in until you get, or you dolly in until you get to the eyes of that particular subject. Unakuja unamwangalia kwa uso na unapita uso unaenda mpaka kwa macho peke yake, then what you will be able to see is actually only what the eyes, then something like that. So when you see this particular individual like this, this is an extreme close-up. Why? Because now you will be able to see even what this particular individual is thinking about. You'll be able to know the feelings of this particular individual. So you need now to be able to see that you have zoomed in so much until you have gotten to this particular point where you are seeing the eyes of the subject, and the eyes can be able to tell you now what is the feeling like, what is the emotional status of this particular individual, and you can be able to see what we have here in relation to this particular subject. Now, then when we talk about now the close up, when you talk about the close up, if I can draw here, yes, that is the photo there. Then we are talking about the close-up. Now, what is going to happen is we will be able to see the eyes there. We'll be able to see the head there. See the mouth there. Seeing the nose. Like that. Then we are seeing the shoulders there. So what we are seeing here is basically a close-up. This is what we call a close-up. This is what we call an extreme close-up. Hapa ukiangalia we are seeing a substantial amount of this particular subject. Here we are not seeing so much of the subject, except you have tried to hide some particular things and you're exposing now particular parts. And that's the difference. Now, when you talk about the medium shot, if I can remove this and we talk about now the medium shot. The medium shot will be something like this. This is the photo. Then we have this as the head. We have this particular individuals like that. So it does happen that what we have here now, this is the person we have here. Ukiangalia kuna kichwa chake, we have nywele yake hapo. Then what we have here is the person from the head all the way to the waist. This is what we call the medium shot. So you're seeing a substantial portion of this particular individual, just from the waist up to the head. Now, when you talk about the long shot, the long shot will be that particular point where we are seeing the individual here. This is the individual. Now, this is the long shot. We are seeing the individual in his entirety. Mwili wake wote tunauona. This is what we call the long shot. Then what we talk about now, I mean, what we move to from the long shot is actually now extreme long shot or the establishing shot. And this one, let me draw a larger photo like that. Ikiwa hivyo, then now this is the individual somewhere here. Is the individual there? We have the individual there. Hapa tunaona nyasi zikiwa zimemea hapo hivyo. Hapa nyuma tunaona ni miti. Hapo nyuma unaona tumilima. Alafu unaona some buildings hapo tena. So hapa unaona na miti hapo. So you can be able to tell now from this extreme long shot, you can be able to tell where this particular individual kama ako along the streets anatembea ama ako mashambani. Huko nyuma unaona kuna mimea, kuna miti hapa mbele unaona labda ni malisho ya ng'ombe. You can be able to tell. Hapa nyuma unaona ng'ombe wengine, unaona kuna vitu zingine huko nyuma, miti, nyumba za watu, milima na maponde. This is what we call an extreme long shot. And again, like I've told you, sometimes we call it an establishing shot. Why? Because this will be able to establish to us where is this particular individual. So up to that particular point, I would want to stop at it. And if you have a question, you can be able to ask, and then from there we'll be able to respond to it before we can close this session. Kuna mtu akona swali? Waithaka Wanjiku, John Mtinda, Elvis, Deborah, Anthony Macharia. Kuna mtu akona swali? Anthony ameconfirm yako sawa. Waithaka Wanjiku pia ameconfirm ako sawa. Okay, now what I want us to be able to do is Waithaka. Okay. Elvis na yeye naona anataka kusema kitu. Elvis amesema ako sawa, ana swali. Naye John pia ameconfirm ako sawa. Now, at this particular point, let me end this particular session, and I'm going to post some notes and some videos that you can be able to look into. They will be able to give more information on the same, and we can be able to watch them, and we can be able to see what is this that we are talking about, and how best can you be able to be a good storyteller using photography, photojournalism. So I appreciate your time, and have all the best.